On day 19, Sarah stopped shivering. Her husband noticed it while they were lying under the pile of blankets in what used to be their downstairs bathroom, the room that had become their entire world. She was just staring at the ceiling, breath visible in the candlelight, body completely still. He shook her, and she looked at him with eyes that didn't quite focus, and said, "I'm warm now. I'm finally warm." She wasn't warm. Her core temperature was dropping, and her body had given up the fight. They'd made it through the first week doing everything right, but then on day 12, they'd made one seemingly innocent decision, and now, a week later, that decision was killing her cell by cell. He had maybe an hour to reverse what they'd done wrong, and if you don't know what mistake they made, you'll make it too. Because here's what nobody tells you about losing power in the dead of winter. The cold doesn't kill you with sudden drama. It kills you slowly, quietly, by convincing you that small compromises don't matter. And by the time you realize they do, your body has already started shutting down. Let's start with the lie everyone believes. You think you have time. The power goes out on a January night, and you tell yourself it'll be back by morning, maybe by the weekend at worst. You keep living normally. You move through your whole house. You sleep in your bedroom. You wait for the utility company to fix whatever broke. And while you're waiting, your house is bleeding heat through every surface, every gap, every window. Because here's the truth they don't teach you. Your house isn't designed to hold heat without a furnace. It's designed to be a container that gets continuously refilled with warmth. The insulation in your walls, the double-paned windows, all of that is meant to slow heat loss just enough that your HVAC system can keep pace. Once the furnace stops, you're living inside a structure that's designed to fail slowly. In northern winter, interior temperature drops 3 to 5 degrees per hour, depending on outside conditions and your home's construction. You start at 68 degrees. 24 hours later, you're at 20 if it's 0 outside. 48 hours and your pipes have burst. Your walls are weeping condensation that's freezing into ice. And the inside of your home is functionally identical to the inside of a freezer. Most people who die in extended winter blackouts don't freeze in the dramatic movie sense. They make it through the first few days cold but alive, and then they start making mistakes because decision-making degrades along with temperature. They burn through all their fuel trying to heat the whole house. They run a generator in an attached garage thinking cracked doors provide enough ventilation, and carbon monoxide puts them to sleep forever. They go to bed on day 6 thinking they'll tough it out, and their core temperature drops just enough during sleep that they slip into hypothermia and never wake up. The people who survive 30 days aren't lucky, and they're not tougher. They're the ones who made one critical decision in the first 6 hours, a decision that feels completely wrong because it feels like surrender. You have to abandon your house. Not physically, you're not leaving, but you need to psychologically and practically abandon 90% of it. Everything you think of as your home, all those rooms, all that space you filled with your life, it's gone now. It's enemy territory. You'll walk through those freezing hallways that now feel like a tomb, and you'll understand that every square foot of volume you try to keep warm is energy bleeding away into physics you cannot win against. The veteran move, the single decision that separates the survivors from the bodies they find in March, is this. Pick the smallest room in your house that can hold everyone who lives with you, and that room becomes your survival capsule for the next month. Everything else is just buffer space, dead insulation around your capsule, rooms you're sacrificing so that one small zone can stay survivable. Ideally, you want a room with minimal exterior walls, no windows, tight volume. An interior bathroom is perfect, a walk-in closet, a small bedroom surrounded by other rooms on 3 sides. Because every wall that touches the outside is a thermal highway pulling heat away from you at a rate you can't stop. If your only option has a window, that's fine. You're going to deal with that window in ways that would seem insane under normal circumstances. Here's the math that makes this work. A typical bedroom is 12 by 12 feet with an 8-foot ceiling. That's over 1,100 cubic feet of air. Your whole house might be 16,000 cubic feet. A small bathroom might be 5 by 7 with a 7-foot ceiling, maybe 250 cubic feet total. The energy required to heat a space scales directly with volume. By compressing your living area down by a factor of 64, you've just made the impossible possible. A human body at rest generates about 100 watts of heat continuously just from metabolic processes. Two people in a tiny sealed room are 200 watts. A family of four is 400. In a properly insulated 250 cubic foot space, that's enough to raise the interior temperature 10 to 15 degrees above ambient temperature, maybe more if your seal is perfect. You won't be comfortable. You'll be cold all the time, but you'll be in the survivable range, and survivable is the only metric that matters. Which brings us to food as fuel, and this is where most people's intuition is completely backwards. Your body is a furnace that runs on calories, and the digestion process produces heat through thermogenesis. Not all calories are equal for this purpose. Fats generate the most heat during metabolism, 9 calories per gram, versus 4 for carbs or protein. And fat digestion is slower, which means sustained warmth over hours instead of a brief spike. A tablespoon of peanut butter before bed isn't just calories, it's fuel for your internal furnace that'll keep your core temperature up through the coldest part of the night when your metabolism naturally drops during sleep. You should be eating fat at every opportunity, as much as you can stomach, because you're not eating for nutrition anymore, you're eating for heat production. Now, you're in your room, it's day 3, you're cold, constantly cold, but alive. You've managed to keep the temperature in your capsule around 45 to 50 degrees through insulation and body heat alone. That's cold enough to see your breath in the candlelight, cold enough that a cup of water left out overnight develops a skin of ice. But it's warm enough that you're not in immediate danger if you're dressed in real layers and moving enough to keep blood flowing to your extremities. The problem is that 50 degrees is bone-deep cold, the kind that grinds you down hour by hour, and you have 27 more days to endure. Sarah and her husband followed every step I'm about to give you until day 12. This is where you need a supplemental heat source, something sustainable that doesn't require ventilation and doesn't burn through your limited fuel in the first week. The answer is thermal mass, and if you understand this principle, you've unlocked the method that kept humans alive for thousands of years before furnaces existed. Thermal mass is any material with high heat capacity that can absorb energy and release it slowly over time. Stone, brick, cast iron, water. The principle is simple. You heat it up using whatever combustion method you have access to outside your sealed room, then you bring it inside where it radiates warmth for hours. A brick heated to 200 degrees and wrapped in a towel will stay warm for 6 to 8 hours, depending on insulation. Cast iron pans work even better because of thermal conductivity. Water is the king of thermal mass. Water has one of the highest heat capacities of any common substance. 1 gallon of water heated to near boiling and sealed in a sturdy container will radiate significant warmth for 10 to 12 hours. Here's how you make this work safely, and this is critical. You do all your heating outside your sealed room. If you have a balcony, a backyard, even a garage you can ventilate by opening the door, that's where you set up a small fire or camp stove. You heat bricks, stones, cast iron pans, sealed stainless steel water bottles out there where combustion byproducts don't matter. Then you transfer them inside. You're not creating heat in your survival capsule, you're importing it. This eliminates the CO risk entirely, and also means you're not consuming the limited oxygen in your sealed space. It's more work. It means suiting up and going outside into brutal cold multiple times a day. It means tending a fire or camp stove with numb fingers. But it's sustainable, it's safe, and over 30 days, those two factors matter infinitely more than comfort. You set up a rotation. Heat 4 bricks in the morning on your outdoor fire. Bring them in, wrapped in towels. Place them near your sleeping area. Heat 2 cast iron skillets midday. Heat a gallon of water in a stainless bottle in the evening. You're creating a rhythm, a routine that keeps your capsule 10 degrees warmer than it would be otherwise. And those 10 degrees are the difference between miserable survival and hypothermia. Sarah and her husband did this too. They were burning small amounts of wood outside, heating bricks, rotating them in and out. For 11 days, it worked perfectly. Their bathroom stayed just warm enough. They were cold and uncomfortable and bored out of their minds, but they were alive and stable. And then on day 12, they made the mistake. It was a psychological break, not a knowledge failure. 12 days of living in a room the size of a closet. 12 days of constant cold, broken sleep, nothing to do but sit and wait and try not to think about how much longer this might last. Sarah's husband wanted just one moment of normalcy. He wanted to make coffee, real coffee, hot and comforting. So he brought the camp stove inside. just for 10 minutes, just to boil water for 2 cups. The room was small and sealed, but he cracked the door slightly for ventilation. He thought that was enough. It wasn't. This was exactly the carbon monoxide scenario I warned you about earlier. They didn't notice the CO building because it's invisible and odorless, and the first symptom is subtle confusion. They drank their coffee. It tasted like victory, like a tiny piece of their old life returned. And then they sealed the door again to preserve heat, and they went to sleep with CO still lingering in the air. And over the next 7 days, the cumulative exposure damaged Sarah's ability to thermoregulate. Her body slowly lost the ability to generate heat efficiently, and by day 19, she was sliding into hypothermia, even though the temperature in the room hadn't changed. Here's what saved her, and you need to understand this because it's the difference between a close call and a corpse. Her husband recognized the signs, the confusion, the slurred speech, the sensation of warmth when she should have been cold. He knew these were late-stage hypothermia symptoms, and he knew the protocol. You don't warm someone up fast. Rapid rewarming can cause cardiac arrest. You warm them slowly, core first. He pulled her into direct skin-to-skin contact, their bodies pressed together under every blanket they had. He heated water bottles and placed them against her torso, not her extremities. He kept her awake, kept her talking, kept her drinking warm water in tiny sips. It took 6 hours before her shivering reflex came back, and shivering was a good sign. It meant her body was fighting again. Note, this isn't medical advice. In a real emergency, consult medical professionals if possible. But this is what worked for them when no help was available. They didn't make that mistake again. No combustion inside the room, ever, no matter how much they wanted it. And that discipline carried them through the rest of the 30 days. Let me tell you what the second and third weeks actually feel like, because the physical cold is only half the enemy. The psychological toll is what breaks people. You're living in darkness most of the time because candles are a limited resource. The silence is oppressive, broken only by breathing and the occasional creak of the house settling in the cold. You can't get comfortable. Your body is always tense, always slightly curled against the cold. And after days of this, your muscles ache constantly. Sleep is broken, fragmented. You wake up every few hours feeling the cold creeping into your sleeping bag or blanket pile, and your brain won't fully relax because some animal part of you knows you're in danger. The boredom is its own kind of torture. There's nothing to do. No screens, no books you can read in the dim light without wasting candle resources, no projects, no privacy. If you're with family, you're living in each other's laps, every irritation magnified. You start having the same conversations over and over because there's nothing new to talk about. Time does something strange. Days blur together. You lose track of what day it is. You're breathing in a sealed space, and every breath releases moisture into the air. Cooking releases moisture. Your body releases moisture constantly through respiration and skin. That water vapor has to go somewhere, and it condenses on the coldest surface available, which is your insulated window and the walls. Suddenly, everything is damp. The blankets covering the window are wet to the touch. The walls are slick. Your sleeping area feels clammy and damp. Cold is so much worse than dry cold. Damp insulation loses R value. Damp clothing doesn't keep you warm. Mold starts growing in the corners, visible even in candlelight. The smell becomes a constant presence, and wiping down surfaces becomes a ritual you both dread and depend on. You have to manage this, and the solution is counterintuitive. Once a day, you crack the door or window wide and let the dry, freezing outside air in for 10 full minutes. You're dumping heat, yes, but you're also dumping moisture, and that exchange is necessary. You wipe down surfaces with whatever dry cloth you have. You rotate damp fabrics away from your sleeping area to air out. It's one more task in a day that's already nothing but tasks, and you're already exhausted. But if you skip it, the dampness will soak into everything and rob you of the insulation you've built. Around day 17, the psychological weight becomes too much and someone breaks. For Sarah, it happened when she stared at the camp stove they'd brought back outside after the day 12 mistake. "We could just make coffee again," she whispered, her voice cracking. "Just one more time. I'm so cold I can't think straight." This is the breaking point that almost killed her the first time, and how you handle it determines whether you make it to day 30. Because the truth is, you probably could make that coffee. You probably have a small reserve, and it would feel so incredibly good in the moment to be truly warm instead of just barely survivable. But that decision is death on an installment plan. Burn extra today, you have less for the final week, and day 29 arrives and you're completely out with no power in sight and temperatures dropping into a cold snap. The discipline required isn't about being tough or stoic, it's about understanding that discomfort is not the same as danger. You're cold, you're miserable, you're more uncomfortable than you've ever been in your life, but you're alive, your core temperature is holding, and every single day you stick to the rationing plan is another day survived. The final week is about pure conservation and endurance. You're down to margins now, scraps, the last reserves. By day 23, you're looking at what remains with desperate calculation, scavenging furniture and books from the rest of your frozen house like strategic resources. That wooden chair represents 4 days of heat if you break it down and burn it conservatively outside for heating your thermal mass. You see every object purely as fuel or insulation. This is the cold teaching you to see reality clearly. Your body is noticeably thinner because the caloric demands of constant thermogenesis are intense. Your mind is slow from stress and broken sleep and the relentless cold. But you're close now. Day 27, day 29. Every morning you wake up still breathing is a victory against physics and entropy. You're burning the last of your fuel carefully, rationing it like water in a desert, and the temptation to use just a little extra is overwhelming, but you don't. You don't because you've come too far to fail now. And then on day 31, you hear it. The hum of the HVAC system kicking on. The power is back. Heat starts flowing through the vents, and within hours, your house begins warming from the tomb it became back into something livable. That first wave of warm air feels like hallucination, like your cold, damaged brain inventing comfort that can't be real. The sensation of truly warm air on your skin after 31 days is so overwhelming that Sarah started crying, not from relief, but from the physical shock of heat. You leave your tiny room, and the rest of your house looks alien. Frozen pipes have burst and there's ice damage everywhere. Belongings are ruined. The furniture you didn't burn is covered in frost. But you're alive. Sarah recovered fully, though it took weeks for her thermal regulation to normalize. The mistake on day 12 taught them something more valuable than any preparedness manual could. Survival isn't about knowledge alone. It's about discipline when you're tired, when you're hurting, when every part of you wants to make just one small exception to the rules. The cold is patient. It doesn't rush. It just waits for you to get sloppy, to convince yourself that the principles don't apply just this once, and then it takes everything. That's the veteran winter hack. Not a single trick or a clever gadget. It's a complete system built on physics, discipline, and the understanding that heat isn't a right or a utility or something you deserve. It's a resource that has to be created, defended, and conserved against an enemy that never sleeps and never negotiates. The laws of thermodynamics don't care about your comfort or your expectations. Cold is the most honest thing in the universe, and the only way to beat it is to be smarter, more disciplined, and more willing to do what actually works instead of what feels normal. That's how you survive 30 days without power in deadly cold.